Rosh Chodesh Elul, 5775. It's been quite the year. I became a rabbi. I moved to a new place. With my husband, of course. I didn't leave him. I completed a triathlon. I meditated for an entire year. I even actually wrote in my journal for an entire year. All because I made resolutions last Elul, 5774. And it worked because I stuck to it. Elul is a time for preparation. It's a time for reflection. Back in the first millennia, when Elul started to gather its customs and traditions, people started to blow shofar every day. And they visited the graves of loved ones, or tzaddikim, righteous people. They read certain psalms aloud and took the month before Rosh Hashanah to prepare for this holy time. Many say that the name Elul for the month actually comes from Ani Dodi V'Dodi Li, and that this is our time when we're preparing, stepping forward to commune with our beloved, with Adonai, during the high holidays. The Maharal of Prague said it beautifully. All the month of Elul, each person should look into his or her soul, search their deeds, that they may make confession. This is what Elul should be. The reality of Elul, for probably most of you sitting in this room, is chaos. You're focused on your other communities, maybe not here, maybe at Loyola Marymount University. You're focused on making a high holiday experience for other people to be meaningful and to be their time when they can step forward and be with God. Ani Dodi V'Dodi Li. The fact that Elul coincides with the beginning of the school year, I see as both fortunate and a little unfortunate. We have this time where we're getting back into our routines. We're coming back into school. Maybe the professors aren't as happy because it's a little louder than it was during the summer here. But we're all coming back together, and we have a time to start fresh. Elul is that time in our Jewish calendar. So we can see these two things as working together, but as many of us know, often the beginning of the school year is also chaotic. I'd like to present to you two different things that I think can help your Elul practice, Musar and minimalism. About a year ago now, I started a journey that took me to a place of what I'm calling consumer consciousness. And on this journey, the first thing that I started to look at was the way that I was consuming food. What was happening with the food that I was eating? How was it coming to my plate? How was it being processed? Who was involved in that process? But from that point, I came to a realization that I should be looking at a lot of other things that I'm spending money or time or energy on. I started to think about the way I bought material items. I started to think, do I actually need new clothes just because it's the beginning of the school year? I don't. That's just a hint. I started to think about the things that we kept in our home. How many blenders does one person need? One, really. Or maybe two, but not really. I realized through this journey, I'm not alone. There are people, there's a phenomena happening through the internet and worldwide, but people are sharing their stories online. And they're talking about how they're moving into these things called tiny houses, which are actually just houses short of shrunk. They're taking their possessions and paring them down in order to become debt-free, in order to save a little bit of money each month, in order to save a little bit of the environment each month. And they're finding that a simpler way of life, this is not really a new concept, but a simpler way of life can be incredibly meaningful and much richer for them. Some people are taking this to their wardrobes, and they're deciding that for 3 months they're going to wear the same 33 articles of clothing. Someone calls it Project 333, a blogger came up with it. And she did this to take the choice out of every morning when she walked over to her closet and had to pick and choose and figure out, what am I going to wear? It came to stress her out. This started for her a journey that's actually come to decrease all of her symptoms from multiple sclerosis, and what she says has just made her life richer and more meaningful. At the same time that I was going on this minimalist journey, I was also discovering and starting to study Musar here at school. And for me, finding the balance between two things in my life like joy and worry, or pride and humility, and thinking about these things in a greater, bigger, broader view, they just came together for me, that Musar and minimalism could work as one to help me guide my life both spiritually and in a secular way. And I came to learn that from both of these things, it's all about aligning my values with my actions. The biggest thing that I got out of doing these two things together last semester was that when I spend less, I experience more. When I spend less time on Facebook, I have the opportunity to experience more time with my friends and family. When I spend less time playing 2048, I have more time to study. It's a game on the iPhone. I have more time to study for my wonderful courses here at Hebrew Union College. The less I spend, the more I get to experience. So when you hear the word minimalism, you may think of something like this. Kind of a bare room, not very pretty to look at, very utilitarian. I'm not sure what the egg-shaped thing in the corner is, maybe a chair or something, but pretty barren. What I'm finding is that minimalism, and the way that people are talking about it online right now and in their lives, is a more aesthetically pleasing minimalism. It's talking about looking at every single component of a room or of a home and asking, what is it about this that it belongs here? Does it give value to my life? Does it add beauty to my home? Or is it actually functional for something? I think in this picture, for me, that's aesthetically pleasing. There's a beautiful rug on the ground. I'm not really sure if that's a lamp or some kind of artwork on the left, but it's kind of cool looking. That's a place I would want to spend some time. But it doesn't overflow your mind with images and things and tchotchkes. This kind of minimalism is what I'm thinking of as a modern tzimtzum. This is how people are stepping back to fill the space that they make in their lives. These things, again, include value. What is of value in my life? What do I value? People are interested in, these are no shocking things up here, becoming healthy, working on relationships in their life, finding their passion, whether it's their occupation or hobbies, personal growth, and contributing to the world in a meaningful way. Now, minimalism is also about decluttering. There's a sense of, if I take away physical objects from the space around me, I can use that space either to relax in it, to use it for yoga, whatever they choose to put in that space, but it's also a mental decluttering. All of us know that at those times when we have so much going on in our minds, it's almost impossible to focus on the things that you may really need to focus on. Bitul zman is the actual waste of time. So wasting time, that's something that minimalism is trying to help people just get rid of. No more Facebook, no more 2048, or at least in very intentional ways of using it. Musar, as I've come to understand it and still learning about, is all about finding balance. Alan Murnis, who wrote the book Everyday Holiness and Everyday Holy Day, great tools for anyone in here and lay leaders, everyone, he writes about leading an extraordinary, ordinary life. It's not about finding what's extraordinary and saying, I'm going to go be that 1 in 1,000 people who does climbing that mountain or whatever it is. It's about living your life in an extraordinary way. It's about finding the things in your life that you want to change and elevating them to have new meaning and new purpose. Musar is also about reflection and shlemut, finding wholeness. And again, it's about creating these individual behaviors, your personal behavior, that relate directly to your actions. The Chofetz Chaim has this beautiful story where he relates this idea of Musar as he wants to impact the Jewish world. So he starts with the world globally, and then he fails. And he says, all right, I'm going to try to impact Poland. And he fails again. And he says, I'll impact my hometown, Radin. That's it. And he fails again. He's like, okay, I'm going to step back again. I'm going to impact just my family. I'll change just my family to impact the world. And again, he fails. Finally, when he succeeds, it's because he says, I'm just going to change myself in order to impact the world. That's how I see Musar helping us to create a more meaningful Elul experience. You may be asking right now, if this is so great, why isn't everyone a minimalist and a Musar expert? And it's an excellent question. I think it's because change is incredibly difficult. As humans, all of us here are incredibly resistant to change. We like routines, even if they're not good routines. And sometimes it feels when we change things that we're losing out. We're letting go of something, and that means loss. But I'd like to challenge you today to think about change as adding things, as the experiencing more part. It's not just about losing things. It's about filling the space of the things that are gone with other meaningful endeavors and thoughts and ideas and study. I can't tell you how to do this. I wish I could give you the 5 steps to go home and create a meaningful Musar practice, a Musar and minimalism Elul practice. But what I can tell you is that if you spend less, you'll experience more. You need to decide what it is for you that you'd like to spend less on so that you can experience more. Using Musar to find balance and understanding what it is it joy or worry that's taking up too much space in your life? Well, I don't know if you can ever have too much joy, but a lot of it, right? That you never worry about the world around you, maybe. What is taking up that space, and where can you find the balance? And again, creating values-driven actions. I asked a few of our colleagues in the field to give me some information about how they're spending their Elul this year, and how they're using the practices of Musar, or minimalism, to create a more meaningful Elul practice. Kira Stein, who's the mother of 2 newborn twin babies, said that she's late-night soul-searching as she begs a baby to sleep. But when she thought more about it, she said, honestly, becoming a parent has forced me to consider my own actions so that I can lead by example when I'm parenting and rabbi-ing. Rabbi Callie Shulman, like many of you, she reads Jewels of Elul to help her create a meaningful Elul practice. Rabbi Jonathan Rothstein-Fish, an avid cyclist, he takes out his earbuds during the month of Elul, and he cycles. And he wrote this beautiful piece here about how when he gets home, he washes away the sin so that he can think about missed opportunities for mitzvot during the year. Rabbi Ahuva Zaks, she likes to listen to other rabbis' sermons and to the high holiday liturgy and music, because it forces her to actually come to terms with the fact that it's coming up. She doesn't like admitting it, like many of us, I'm sure. She also has a Musar buddy, a friend who she talks to, and goes over these things from the past year. What have I been good at? What do I still need to work on? Am I holding grudges? She says it's nice to have someone to hold her accountable. And after my Musar class, I definitely agree that that's helpful. Rabbi Jessie Gross, who's very artistic and likes to have visual representations, she's created 2 calendars for Elul this year. The first one looks like this, and she's doing a day-by-day reflection on it. Short, but sweet. If I could show you a little bit closer too, you'd see that around the edges of the calendar, she filled it in with a bunch of different words that have meaning for her for the high holiday season, like Shema, and Shemitah, and Simcha, and all of these other things that for her spark something for reflecting for the month of Elul. The second one that she's using, which I think is pretty innovative, is looks like a wheel. And every month on Rosh Chodesh, she's going to do a check-in and see how it's been going so far in the new year. How is she coming along? Is she following along with her practices? Another way to hold herself accountable. A few of the things I've tried this Elul with varying success so far is that I've tried to cut down on time wasters like Facebook and Netflix because I feel like they're betul zman in my life. They're wasting my time. I've taken up meditation, even though it's really difficult for me. And I use podcasts that are available in iTunes U. And I took this journal that I started in my Modes of Spirituality class last year. And I write in that as much as I possibly can each day during Elul. And I write about what I'm grateful for. And I write about Bechira points, things that I've chosen to do well or not. Like, we worked on my road rage in Musar last year. Still working on that. But when I make a great Bechira point, it's really nice for me to write it down in my journal. Though I don't think that Elul has to be anything having to do with money, for me, creating resolutions for this new year about spending less so that I can experience more, and also spending less so that I can put my money towards my student loan debt or whatever it may be in my life, that's one of my big resolutions going into Rosh Hashanah, to waste less. For me, that's connected to money. And also to just work on decluttering. A few minutes ago, Zach read in 29:3, "Yet until this day, God has not given you a heart to know, eyes to see, and ears to hear." When I looked at minimalism and Musar and I saw these things coming together, for me, this was God calling out and saying, this is your heart to know, and your eyes to see, and your ears to hear. And if any of you have ever had this kind of call, I'm assuming some of you have, or a call similar to it, you'll know that going back to what was before is much more difficult. I can't ignore the fact now, every time I go to Starbucks, that it costs $3 or $4. What could I use that money for differently? When I spend an hour on Facebook, wow, I really could have been studying Torah for that whole hour, or planning high holidays for LMU. This quote has taught me to really look and to see and to know what I should be doing with my time. It's Rosh Chodesh Elul 5775. What did you do with your Elul? And what have you done with your year? So, Ryan Toby.